Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for the sixth session in the fundraising in the coronavirus era, what to do about events. I know that's all a big question for all of us, so we are excited to learn more, so thank you. And I will turn it over to Matt with MPW Strategies to kick us off, so thank you.
Hey, thank you, Carson. Thanks so much for being here, and thank you everybody for joining us on this Friday at noon. We're going to get started in a little bit. I think we'll give everybody just another minute to come on. I see participants are slowly coming in, so we'll jump into this in about a minute. I'm going to lay out some ground rules, and then I'm going to repeat it again. But for those of you who have joined us, you can use the Q&A feature for your questions and comments. So we want your questions and comments today. And in that Q&A feature, if you see a question or comment that you like, or it's a question or comment that you are going to ask, use the upvote. That's that thumbs up button. Just hit that. And then some ground rules for today. For some housekeeping, we're going to do some interview questions with Gareth and Megan. We're just going to cover some questions on events. And then we're going to turn it over to you, the audience, to ask questions. So use that Q&A feature to ask those questions and add those comments. We'd love to hear for also what you're doing in terms of events and all that, you know, if you have anything to add. And then, or what you're seeing out there. You know, we're all at home, of course, during the COVID-19 crisis. So, you know, you might hear kids screaming, dogs barking, spouses screaming at kids, all the above, all at one time. So just bear with us. Bandwidth could come in and out, that happens. So again, bear with us. But hopefully, you know, at the end, we want you to come away with a lot on events and what to do and some takeaways and some guidance. So let's 12:03, we can get started here. And I want to introduce Gareth Heyman and Megan Scremin. Gareth with MorEvents, thank you for joining us. And Megan with Special Olympics Colorado, thank you for joining us. Both have had a lot of experience in our new reality in events. It's pretty phenomenal what they've been working on, what they've accomplished, what they've done. So really looking forward to hearing from them and everything that's taking place. Everybody who's just joining, again, use that Q&A feature for any questions, comments. Don't use the chat, use that Q&A. There's this thumbs up feature. So you see a question or comment you like, hit that thumbs up and keep those questions coming. And you also can reply to comments. We want to hear your comments, what you're doing in events as well. We're going to start with some questions for Gareth and Megan to share what they've been doing, what they're seeing out there in terms of events and for nonprofits and organizations. And then John will curate all your questions and we'll turn it over to a panel halfway through here. So we can get going. Again, use that Q&A feature if you can't see anything, so, or having any trouble or can't hear us. So I'll start with Gareth. Gareth, you know, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about MorEvents, and just how you're handling things. What are you doing for CARE during the COVID crisis and our home isolation and everything else?
Yeah, well, thanks, Matt, John, and MPW Strategies for putting this together and having me here this morning, and everybody also, you know, in the audience that obviously has a lot of stimulus and a lot of things that they have opportunities to do with their time right now. I appreciate you carving out some time and listening to us, and I certainly hope to make it worthwhile for this hour that we're spent together. MorEvents is a global event planning business that has been around for almost a quarter of a century. We've been doing everything from board of directors meetings to trade shows to conferences, a lot in the not-for-profit world here in Denver as well as around the country, and facilitating, you know, traditional events as we've known them as of a couple of months ago. Got a great team that I've been working with, and fortunate so far to be able to, you know, maintain them and pivot everything to the new realities that we're in. Personally, you know, I do look at the time that we're in, Matt, and it's what a wonderful time, if this is going to happen, to be in right now. I mean, really, just not that many years ago, the idea of having communication, of having the ability to talk to our loved ones from afar, of continuing education, to continuing and, you know, changing our lives a little bit to whatever this is. You know, we're very, very lucky, and I take this opportunity to try and, you know, stretch my mind and get out of my box, what I've been doing. I'm fortunate to be at home. My life is based around travel typically. So for this much time to be sitting in one place is absolutely incredible for me. And I kind of like it. You know, my son and my wife and I have been having some great times together, some great meals. I love to cook. My son and I are doing Chopped, the TV show, on a regular basis in our kitchen. We've actually started our own kind of Heyman's at Home podcast or webcast that we're having a little bit of fun with, and walking the dog a lot and staying healthy, probably exercising and eating better than I have for a long time. So, you know, it's not where we all want to be, but it's again how you look at it and move forward. And thank goodness we're all healthy and wanting to stay that way.
Great. Thanks for that. Some good advice. I'll have to check out Chopped. I'm not familiar with it. And I don't know how to start a podcast with my kids. That's pretty ambitious, but I know you're, Gareth, you are always on the road internationally. So I guess you feel like you got a lot of time right now. Thanks.
Yeah. I like it though. You know, it's been great. It really has. Like I said, nobody wants to be in this situation, and that's clear, and nobody signed up for this, and nobody planned for it. You know, so, you know, you make the most of what you've got, and certainly recognize that there are a lot of challenges, and everybody needs to maintain mental health as well as your physical health to get through this and to support each other. It's very appropriate. We're talking about, you know, philanthropy in the not-for-profit world. I mean, I think some of the most important words out there is, how can I help you? And I think that's really important, that we're all in that mode right now of offering where we can and when we can, and maybe we can't do what we used to do, but, you know, making sure that our fellow human is taken care of.
Good. Thanks, Gareth. Wise advice. So Megan, thank you so much for joining us. Megan, you have been incredibly busy. Every time I turn on the news, there's something with Special Olympics and an athlete, or what you're doing to raise money. You've done an amazing job in pivoting to this new reality. And so can you tell us a little bit, okay, you can forward that slide, about what you're doing right now, how you're taking care of, well, let's hear about you. Let's hear about Special Olympics Colorado. And then, you know, just what you're doing right now on a day-to-day basis to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt. And thanks for having me here. At Special Olympics Colorado, first I want to say I started my career in events. So I am really excited to be here. Events is a passion of mine. I actually started at Special Olympics Colorado as our director of events. So this is a topic that's near and dear to me, and I'm very excited to learn from everybody. At Special Olympics Colorado, or SOCO as you may hear me refer to it, we serve individuals with intellectual disabilities and all types of intellectual disabilities. We have more than 15,000 athletes across the state that we serve, and we provide them year-round opportunities to participate in a wide variety of sports, trainings. We have a lot of school-based programming. In fact, we're in 410 schools. We have health-based programming where we provide health screenings, athlete leadership programming. So a whole wide variety of activities that we offer. That being said, we are very much an event and gathering-driven organization. Our practices take place in person. Our competitions are large gatherings of athletes. So that's been challenging. Also, working with people with intellectual disabilities presents challenges of their own, of its own. For so many people with intellectual disabilities, they are not only reliant but dependent on Special Olympics for their physical activity, for their social connection. And so we've been really working as hard as we can to pivot. So the slide you have up there is our SoCo at Home resources. So trying to take, and again, I know we're going to talk about fundraising events, but for us, it's been equally as important to take our programmatic offerings and make those virtual. So sports-specific trainings, resources for families, fitness challenges that have been going on. So we're really working to pivot as best we can, both from a fundraising and a programmatic standpoint. For self-care, I wish I shared an interest in cooking. I don't. I love eating out. So this is maybe a little bit more difficult for me. To every man, woman, and child for themselves in this house of four here. But I do like reading and going for walks to get my minds off things.
Good. Those walks are critical. I find myself doing dog walks all the time. I remember there's a meme out there with the dog on top of the cabinet, like afraid of the next walk, hiding out. So our dogs are getting to that point. All right, so we're going to move on to our questions. If you want to forward the slide, Kay, to this first question here. So Megan, I'll start with you. I mean, you've done, Special Olympics Colorado. It's been pretty substantial, just what you've done in terms of events and the virtual events. And so how are you pivoting your events? I mean, gone virtual? Are you rescheduling? Are you doing new virtual ones, canceling, a hybrid? Tell us about it.
Yes, and yes. And I appreciate the intro. I would like to offer, I am definitely not an expert here, so I hope you don't sign off of this. But I am learning along with everybody else. And I'm just as excited to learn from everybody. The other thing I'll say is I have no shame in capturing good ideas. I'm surrounded by a great team of people that all are coming up with these awesome ideas. And so that's the first thing. I would encourage everybody to look at each other, learn from each other, because we really are all going through this together. But that being said, we did make the decision very quickly that doing nothing was not an option. So the first thing that we launched, which you can see up there, is this Better Together Walk. And so that is not something that we had in existence, that we took virtual. It was a brand new event, and that we really turned around within, I think, about 3 weeks. And so our events director has been on another webinar like this. And so again, it all goes back to learning from each other and just throwing things and seeing what sticks to the wall. It was a very successful event. And for us, I think the things that were appealing about it was that it was something that was not just on your computer, because I think we're all getting that screen fatigue, but that we could get out, get moving. The other thing that we did, it was very important to us to connect it to our mission. So along with the walk, we had a virtual opening ceremonies, which again is very Special Olympics specific. And then created an audio recording that everybody received when they registered. And that audio recording included songs hand-selected by athletes, as well as vignettes featuring 5 different athletes talking about our core values and what they mean to them. So again, really trying to tie it back into our mission as much as we can. And then those people had a takeaway with them, something that they can keep in this audio file. It was successful. We had about 600 participants, raised $20,000, half of which was from online, from registration fees. The other half actually was from sponsorships. And we did it at the time, because COVID was so new at the time, we were probably a little more hesitant to ask than we would be now. But we did a $15 suggested donation for all non-athletes. Athletes were free. And so that worked out pretty well. The average donation size, as I look back, was actually $25. So people did, in fact, do more than the minimum, which I think was part of our thought behind doing a suggested donation with the hope that people might do a little bit more. Next time, and something I might throw out to everybody is, I don't think we need to be as sensitive around having that hard ask right now. So if we were to do it again, we would tie donation amounts to programmatic offerings, really encourage fundraising as well. So that was a little bit about the Better Together Walk. We've done, our Young Professionals Board has also pivoted. Just 2 nights ago, they hosted a Young Professionals Board virtual trivia event where we utilized Zoom. People could register individually or in teams of 5, and then they were divided into breakout groups. We raised about $5,000 from that, again, both from sponsorship and registration. Other things that we're doing, and I'll go through these quickly, are virtual town hall with donors. It's not a fundraising, there's no ask involved, but really it is an event with the hopes of future ask, because we're connecting with them now. Another thing that we're about to launch is a truck raffle. So we were in the fortunate position to get a truck to raffle, but that's something that's very nice and doesn't have to be centered around an event, but can be done either in small group gatherings or just by selling tickets. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, pivoting, taking whatever we have programmatically. So in our case, the summer games, and we're going to be working to make those, add in fundraising to that, fundraising events to programmatic events. So yeah, that's a little bit what we have right now. And I will say, in the next week or two, as an entire staff, we will be getting together and having a brain dump. So any idea, no bad idea out there, just to see what we can come up with.
Great, thanks for that, Megan. That is a lot. Excuse me, in 2 months. I mean, run, walk, trivia night, town hall, doing a truck raffle. You know, the bar is set, folks. You know, Special Olympics Colorado came out ready to go and put these together. So kudos to you. But I think that gives you an idea of, you know, what you can do and the possibility out there. It's very, very impressive. And then we go to Gareth. You know, MorEvents has really been on the front lines of this. You can go back to the slide 1, okay? You know, really on the front lines. I know you guys have been doing a ton of research, talking to a lot of vendors out there that provide virtual and all different types of levels of events. And you've had to change, you know, I mean, all you do is you do these giant in-person events. So tell us, what are you seeing out there? How are you getting your clients and the folks you work with?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. And Megan, first of all, a high five to you. I think everything that you're doing is exactly what we're talking to our clients about. I think that's great. I think you need to keep, you know, you said it right off the bat, do something. I mean, we don't know what's going on right now. We don't know what the future fully looks like. You know, but bringing your teams together and doing something. You know, clearly our role is a little bit different as a third-party planner. You know, we had a gamut of events scheduled for the year that we really had initially to first look at to see what is going to happen with these. And, you know, you really had 3 options initially, and it really still is. You know, you cancel, do you postpone, or do you pivot to a virtual component, or do a hybrid situation? You know, timing as where we were when we started, you know, and obviously this happened very quickly. So our first mantra was to work with our clients to understand what their needs were, what their feelings were, what their goals and objectives were, and how we could facilitate that. We looked at what was on the books. We tried to obviously look at fiscal component of what they were committed to already, and, you know, getting them out of contracts, moving, working with hotels, working with destinations, working with all the vendors to understand what the possibilities were if we were going to do any of the other aspects of things. Clearly, timing was a matter of that. So there was the critical people that had events planned, say, in the next, you know, 30 or 60 days, that had maybe a fundraiser that was scheduled, you know, this next week or next month. Very different, you know, discussion. You're more in crisis mode of how you adapt and how you move on to something else, or what you do. The people in the summertime and kind of have a little more, you know, strategy sessions of things, opportunities. And then obviously later on in the year, we absolutely can look to our clients and really understand what the possibilities are and what we should be doing. As an organization, you know, we've done digital and virtual events, you know, for years, and it's not our core business initially, I'll be very honest to that, but it is now. And one of the things that we did immediately, because we've been around for a while, because we weren't, you know, initially so shocked to understand that something was really major happening in the world, we really kind of put our team to work. And like I said, I'm very fortunate to have a great team that I work with at MorEvents, and I have great clients that we work with. And so the first really simultaneous things we do is we reached out to almost all of our clients and started talking to them. You know, how are you? What's going on? What are you feeling? What's your organization feeling? And really getting feedback from them, because that drives what we do. I mean, we want to be an industry leader, and we want to, you know, provide resources, but we also want to understand what the pain points are and being able to have a solutions provider to them. while we were doing all that, our team absolutely started looking at the unbelievable number of platforms that there are. And, I think we have a pretty complex group of people who have seen a lot of programs and things over the years. Certainly in the last, 2 months, they've been on a lot of Zoom calls or Microsoft Teams or whatever else there is. I want to say that there is an immense number of robust platforms that are out there that can facilitate your event much more than this. And technology has definitely evolved to be able to create these. So our team is looking at all of as many as we can, not all of them. There's literally hundreds. I'm sure probably have 50 that we have reviewed and know that we have as options for our clients. But the platform is just one thing. So we do believe that as you move forward and as you are pivoting your events to a virtual thing, that what you're going to rest the event on is a component of things. The components of what we do is whether you're hiring an outside vendor, whether you have your own team, whether you have volunteers, to putting together an event, fundamentally is the same. You still need a budget, you still need a timeline, you still need speakers, you still need your content, you still need a look and feel, you might need a website, you might need branding, you might need swag and giveaways and things along those lines. All those elements are the same, as opposed to recommending which hotel or which ballroom or which destination you're going to look at. You need to recommend which platform that you're actually going to be working on. And that does set a foundation of things. Very different from doing a 3-day trade show that you're going to have thousands of people at, and you have a general session and keynote speakers, and then the booth component of things and investments of sponsorship are very important, to a fundraiser that was traditionally in a ballroom or on a golf course or things along those lines. So very different platforms that you look at. And we've done I think really had a lot of good input from our clients, and really working very hard to meld the right thing. And nobody knows what's going on, and nobody for the future, but we certainly are taking all the intelligence that we have from all the associations, all the convention visitors bureau that we work with around the world. I'm following very closely China. We spent I think 90 days in China about 2 years ago. So we have a lot of relationships and a lot of things going on there. So we're seeing what's happening there and kind of at least forecasting in the same way of what's going to be happening here in our marketplace, and trying to adapt to that.
Wow, that is a lot. That is interesting. I mean, you guys are definitely on the forefront of all this, no question, and thinking about all the different ways. I just want to remind people the Q&A feature. So if you have questions or comments, please use that Q&A feature, ask questions. We want the audience to participate here. So as we're talking with Gareth and Megan, and any questions come up, please let us know. If you hear something that they're doing or that they're not, please comment. Let us know what you're doing. We want to hear from you. We want to ideate here and hear all the best, gather as much information as we possibly can. So again, use that Q&A feature. Don't be shy. You're mostly fundraisers. I know you're not shy, so come on, let's hear this. Let's hear those questions and comments. We'll move on to our second question, which is on virtual events. And I'll start with Megan, and if you can just tell us, you got 3 under your belt, what's working and what's not. I'm sure it's not all perfect.
No, it's definitely not all perfect. We are learning as we go, and I think that's an important thing to understand, is that we are all being asked to adapt and learn specifically technology very quickly. So on the very specific learning with the Better Together Walk, we had great plans for a virtual opening ceremonies. When we tested linking Facebook, this is a very specific one, but Zoom to Facebook Live, worked great the day before. The day of, it didn't work. So I had to, on the fly, do a virtual, so it was like literally filming with my iPad, my screen. And so that was a lesson learned in many cases. Try connecting Zoom to Facebook Live with the actual Facebook profile you're going to be using, and have a backup plan that you are ready to act on at the time. And my third lesson would be to pre-record things and avoid going live when possible. So that would maybe be my first. But that leads to, I was working, I think we have this very unique grace period time right now where everybody is in this together. We are all learning together. And so I think it behooves us to take advantage of that time frame. I mean, I know we all want to have our crystal ball and say, we're definitively taking this event virtual or not. But at least for us, we're trying to take advantage of that time frame. I don't think anybody would be surprised if we had to pivot and change plans again in a week or a month. So the technology learning curve, same thing with the YPB trivia. You know, we learned that day that we need to break people out into groups that particular event. So another lesson learned is have people register 15 minutes before the actual event starts. So again, those are very specific things, but each event we do, we're learning more as we go. So yeah, and the other thing I would say is go easy on yourselves. This is not easy for anybody, and so we all want things to go as well as they possibly can. But things will happen. Dogs will bark, kids will scream, and that happens. One thing that is going well that I would comment on again is to continue going for sponsorships. Obviously, none of us want to be tone deaf right now. We don't want to go after somebody where we know they're really struggling. But reaching out to restaurants for gift cards, for auction items, for sponsorships, organizations that still might be weathering the storm a little bit better than others, who still want ways for their employees to engage or to get word out about their offerings. I would just encourage everybody to continue reaching out to them. Matt, you're on mute. See, here's our technology.
Here we go. Re-record, don't go live. Sponsorships, maybe Zoom. So that's great. Thank you for all that, Megan. And yeah, give us some grace here. Gareth, what are you seeing in virtual events? What's those lessons learned?
Yeah, so, you know, it's very important, again, when we start a conversation, and we've coined this phrase, digital maturity, to understand where everybody is with their understanding of technology. And not only is it an understanding, it's what physical things that they have, what bandwidths, what computers, what tablets, what phones. And it starts at the individual level with whoever the person is that you're talking to about the event that you're doing. It talks about the organization and what their culture is all about. Very different conversation that I have traditionally with not-for-profits regarding technology and this pivoting compared to, say, some of my technology clients like Dell or Intel, who have been used to working at home, who have, you know, a lot of the technologies, but they're still also learning a lot. They're still understanding how are we doing some of the components of things that we were traditionally doing on face-to-face. Not-for-profits, you know, obviously have a lot of touch and feel components of things built into their culture. You have heartstrings that are really, really important there. So you have to understand where all those things are to know, you know, what common denominator people need to be at, and as a starting point from a conversation. What's your bandwidth of your staff? How can they pivot to understand what the technologies are? I firmly believe, obviously, that there are partnerships and other opportunities if you don't have that within your organization to be able to help you. I do think, as you're talking about, even here about, I mean, you know, it's happened. We've all been on the calls. Somebody isn't muted. Somebody is muted and shouldn't be. The dog's barking, all these other things. It's important when you're going through and putting together these programs, whether it's live or whether it's recorded, and there's certainly some options to talk about that, or even a combination of the two, that you have a team kind of behind the house, making sure that all of the elements, that your slides are upright, that your video presentations are coming in, that your sponsorship logos are being broadcast appropriately because you've sold those for sponsorship. And yes, Megan, I think sponsorship is really very important and should not be stopped at all. I firmly believe, absolutely firmly believe, and Matt and you and I have this conversation multiple times, that of all the industries out there that are affected by this right now, and everybody is clearly, I firmly believe that the not-for-profit and philanthropic industries have the most to gain from the world that we're in right now. They really, really do. I think the value of what you have been doing traditionally should continue on a technology standpoint of things. I think you should ask the same amount of money for things that you were doing before as you're doing right now, because people care about what your cause is and that you have them. Now, though, you have the ability to understand who your audience is. And if you're signing up for an event, the technology that you have to understand that, you know who is at that table, where before you just had a name, you didn't know who that person was. You can start a campaign, you can start a strategy, you can start marketing to that person right away. With AI components of things, you can actually customize it to that person as you get further down the road. We've been talking about, on the traditional sense in event planning for already many years, it's no longer an event for 50 or 500 people. It's an event for one person 500 times. And we have to understand the journey that everybody is going through and why they're taking their time and why they're supporting the cause and what their heartstrings are and what good event looks like. And those are the kinds of things you have to look at as you're putting together these programs. And they're very possible to do in a virtual component things and all the other elements on it. I think, like I said, I think there's a lot of very robust programs out there. We're also adding a touch component to the technology. I think that's really important. Right now, we've had technology out. We are stimuli at the end of the day. We are probably tireder than we were being in the office because we're on Zoom calls, we're talking to people. We're always on show. I'm always having a smile because we're not having a phone call anymore, right? We're actually seeing people's face. So you have to smile, you have to look good, and that's, it's really very, very tough. So we're also adding a touch component of things, and how can we touch people really physically? I mean, can we send things to their homes? That was a registration packet before that you got when you came in. Now it has some components of what your event is going to have. And I can talk about that later on if you'd like, or continue on with it.
Yeah, that'd be very cool. Yeah, let's get that later. Thanks, Gary. So the power of virtual can bring so much to us, as you indicated. It's that, that really creating that personal level of engagement. And, I think what you said, about the one event 500 times, it's one event for 500 people. But really you're able to engage those people on that individual basis through a lot of these online technologies. And there is a lot out there that nonprofits can use. And I completely agree. We've talked about this. Nonprofit industry probably has the most to gain from all of this. I mean, there's so much that can be done, and people want to be present. They want to feel what's going on in your organizations. And they love what you're doing, and they want to be part of it. And, this virtual component can really bring that all together. So we're going to combine the next two questions. And it's really just about, what's happening in the space of events, and what do you see? This is the next 6 months, next 3 to 6 months, but even a year. What do you see right now? If you have an event planned, like a gala planned for the fall, what do you do? But then if you're thinking about something next year, what do you do? Wait for things to go back normal or pivot? And Megan, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I wish I had a crystal ball.
It's an easy question.
Life would be a lot less stressful right now. I mean, in the near future, unfortunately, I think I see a lot more virtual. That being said, and I think I saw one of the questions, we have postponed our events. We have not definitively made, we postponed a golf tournament to August. We have a banquet type event in October that is still on for right now, and we're making those plans. I do think it's important near term and long term to have plans A through Z. So in this scenario, plan A, in this scenario, plan B. And that requires us to be, at a time when we're distant, it's requiring us to be more synced than ever, which is very, very hard. So it requires a lot of communication and flexibility. For me, I think it's also, I tend to be an optimist, which in some cases is good, and then in some cases it's not. And so I think it's important to surround yourself with people who have differing perspectives, so that you can have a better insight as to what plan A and plan Z might look like, and still be ready to throw all of those out. From a sponsor perspective, I saw that as a question, and I think now is the time to be working with the sponsors who we too have had some sponsors already who have dropped out. So I don't think that's unexpected, but we're really trying to be as proactive as we can. And if we know there's a sponsor, as an example, for an event, we have a plane pull in August. The chances of us having a plane pull, which is a large mass gathering, are pretty slim. But we're working on it. But we're already working with those sponsors to see if there are other ways we can recognize them throughout the year, other programmatic events, so that we can shift their sponsor deliverables to things that we know we're having, or give them more benefit now, knowing that some of the value add may not be there later. So we're really trying to be creative and communicative with those sponsors to see what we can do for them. If they're struggling, can we promote their business? So that's what we're doing. And then I'd say my long-term outlook, on some days, I'm sure many of you know this expression, but thriving, not surviving. And I definitely think that's the case many days, many hours, many minutes. But I'm really trying to pivot my mindset and our whole team's mindset that in order to survive, we really need to strive to thrive. We need to be working toward that thriving mode with the acceptance that we will not be there all the time, but at least we're trying to be in that thrive mode. So that would my offerings.
Good. Love it. Yeah, it's thrive, not thrive above survive.
Yes, knowing survival mode is what happens most of the day still, but we're trying.
It's something to work for, something to strive for.
Yeah.
All right, Gareth, what do you think? Next 3 months, next 6 months, next year, what does it look like?
Yeah, so I think first of all, very different times, 3 to 6 months, and then next year and beyond. But and those of you that know me and have worked with me or had a chance, I am traditionally very much a glass half full kind of guy. So I look at things very positively and look at that. I think that, and again, I don't have a crystal ball. We are trying to gather all the information that we have from all the sources that we're privy to around the country and around the globe, and from our industry experts and things along those lines. 3 to 6 months. Let's talk about technology. What is amazing right now is technology that was being built on some of these platforms, and even these Zoom things were built and sometimes by venture capitalists and things like that, hoping to make a niche into the market, and then all of a sudden this has exploded. These technologies are being tested more than ever before, and they're getting feedback more than ever before. So the technologies that we currently have right now are also being funded like they never have been before, which is a good thing. And I think that what you're absolutely going to see in the next 3 to 6 months and beyond is new technologies that continue to evolve what we have in a very, very positive site. It is much easier to change a few lines of code than it is to change a ballroom that may have been designed wrong, so service staff can't service your event as easily as they could have in the past. So we're certainly looking for technology to develop. We do a lot of innovation programs with a lot of our tech clients, and we've done a lot of really cool things already. And I'm actually very excited about how that's going to develop. And that's another reason why we didn't choose to just be committed to any one platform, because there's so many out there, and it needs to fit into what you have. We do believe that. There's two factors to this. There's what is available to be able to do, like what is the governors and the politicians and everything else allowing us to be able to do. And there'll be some real tight guidelines, and I can share some of those if the group is interested. Some of the people already know that about what it's going to look like when we open up a convention center, or what it's going to look like when we open up a hotel ballroom. Screening, temperature checks, tracking, ensuring masks are there, ensuring sanitation stations are all over the place, social distancing guidelines. All those things are really, really are going to have an impact on what we knew before is not going to look like that in the new world. We think that, again, for the next 3 to 6 months, we have pivoted all of our clients, I believe, I think I can firmly say that I think to all digital or postpone beyond 3 to 6 months. I wear a lot of different hats. I'm obviously part of MorEvents, and that's really important to me. But I'm also very social and philanthropically involved. I sit on many boards here in the Denver area. I'm involved philanthropically in my donation side of things. So I look at things also from not only, my business perspective, but also on a personal level. And the other thing to take into consideration, I think very strongly, is, when this opens up and say we can go, what is your donor base, and what are people's feelings going to be towards going to these events and sitting next to somebody and wondering what. We all have different emotions about how things are going on right now. And I think that's a really important thing to consider, especially in the not-for-profit world, where some of your donor bases may be of elderly people, and maybe very young. I mean, there's a lot of diversity of things, but it's important to look at and consider that as you're making decisions and kind of moving forward. Yep.
Okay. Sorry, Gareth. Go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to say that's such a good point about, events and thinking about your audience and who's attending, especially with so many, of our givers are seniors.
Yep. Yeah. And I think the other thing, like I said, I started touching on a little bit more. I think, again, when we're talking about digital events and virtual or whatever the terminology is that you're using, that it's really important to look at both factors of things. And now it's a kind of blend in the touch side of things, Matt, is that, before you came in, you checked in, you got your name tag, and maybe you got a brochure or pamphlet or something along those lines. For our clients, we're actually putting together very retail-esque looking boxes that are very nicely done, that might have all the information that you would have had for a traditional event in there already at your registration desk. But we're also putting in there things like maybe a stretching band, maybe a Lego set, maybe some food, maybe some spices, so that the fitness instructor who, after 45 minutes of sitting in front of a conference or something, says, okay, pull out that fitness band that we put in there in that box you received, and let's all get up and stretch and do something fun. On conferences, maybe we're doing things like, the chef at the end of the day is coming on and showing you how to cook for your family. Not how to cook a gourmet chef meal, but how to cook with your family with things you have. And we might include a nice spice that's, in that for the family or things along those lines. We might put a Lego in there so that you can have a team building exercise and things along those lines. Meditation, experts who are kind of breaking in and doing, you got to get up from your computer, and you can't expect to be sitting in something for more than, 40 or 45 minutes without some kind of a break.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff. And I think, we're going to turn it over to the audience for questions. And on the next slide, there's a setup of that room, Gareth, that you mentioned with that social distancing, that picture right there. But that's really...
Yeah, and just if the audience can see that is about a 12,000 square foot ballroom that traditionally we would have probably had, however the setup is, anywhere from 500 to 800 or more people in there. And set up with the guidelines that we're seeing that's coming out of the convention center and hotels. That's 3 people per 72-inch round. That's a ballroom for just shy of 60 people.
Yeah, a lot to think about. All right, so let's turn it over to the audience. Let's hear your questions. I think John's going to start to curate that for us. So
yeah, Matt, we'll do lightning round. But good discussion, Megan and Gareth, and you too, Matt. Really, I think, we're getting the heart of what people want to know. I'm going to condense some questions here, and I'll start right out of the gate with, and I wrote this down. I wrote down Megan's phrase, screen fatigue, but I think a lot of the participants have been asking about Zoom fatigue, and are we going to have that kind of in the next 3-6 months as we move into regular events? So, Megan, I'll shoot it to you if you don't mind.
Sure. Yes, I think so. And I think that will create or force us to become creative yet again, to find ways to get people out of their seats, off the computer. I love Gareth's ideas of having, incorporating exercise activity into the Zoom events themselves. But I wish I had a great answer for how to avoid that, but I do think it's something that we will need to think about, because Events that were normally longer, you'll need to condense the same amount of impact into smaller time frame. So I think it's something that as teams and event organizers, we all need to be considering and work on.
Gareth, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, we're all facing Zoom fatigue right now for sure. And I do think it's really important to understand the timing of things and how long people have meetings or conferences or fundraisers set up for, and what you're doing and how you're trying to shake it up on an ongoing basis. Are you cutting to a video? Are you cutting to a DJ, who's doing something? Are you having a completely different, visual? You've got to be mentally stimulated. So you can't just keep looking at that box. You've got to be able to do something. And again, I think it is important to understand the timing of things. I think that when you're doing these events, again, whether it's live or recorded, it's important to have really, we look at it as an Academy Award type strategy and timing. We have a playbook that we've put together that really is, as we started going through this, amazing the number of steps you need to do to ensure that everything works perfectly the way that it's designed to do, that your messaging is getting across, and that you're keeping people interested in it. It's very easy to doodle around and turn off your screen and to not pay attention. Interesting thing is, for the technology, we can actually see what people are doing and how much time they are paying attention to things. So that's great feedback as we continue to grow into other events and take that data analysis. And that's really important, that data analysis that's going to start coming in from events, whether it's on a not-for-profit or whether it's on a corporate event, and assessing that and what we can do with it. Because there's a lot of great opportunities we can change and continue to grow and excite our events.
Great. Matt, I'm going to ask this of you because we had a client that did this recently. Do you mind talking a little more about that? And please unmute yourself before answering. Maybe I did it. I will take full blame if that's the case. Matt's using the hand gesture. I don't think I muted him as much as I'd love to. Here we go. Let's see if this works. Matt, you might want to try it on your end.
Thank you for that, John. I know you like muting me. I'm sorry, what was that?
Well, I was thinking about recently what Gareth's saying and all of this going to virtual. We had a recent experience with a client that I thought you might want to talk about, just to give people some real detail, some concrete detail about a success, actually. Yeah,
sure. So one of our clients, Soul Child Development Center, had their lunch planned for April, their annual lunch, and it was their 26th or 27th annual lunch, and for Champions for Children. And we're just about to send out invitations and book the room and everything, and the crisis hit, and we quickly pivoted to a virtual event, and that virtual event actually ended yesterday. And we built a whole timeline and a scale, and just drew in the same people that would have been involved in this event at the first place. So the audience was there, which I'm sure they're there for you, for your regular events, and we turned it virtual, and it was a great success. And Soul did not have the cost of the venue and the food and mailing out and printing invitations. So it went very well, and all the donors and all the sponsors that could step up did. So I'd highly recommend that. And we've heard a lot of other ideas. We did this very fast in a month, but now there's so much more that you can do. And I think switching this virtual and this hybrid and having activities behind so people aren't in front of their screen the whole time.
Great. We have time for just one more question because I want to make sure Megan and Gareth can chime in on this, and Matt, you too, but I'm going to front load it a little bit. A lot of the questions are centered around golf tournaments. They can be golf tournaments, runs, you name it, and particularly in September. And some of the comments have been, we canceled. I'll say this, we have a client, Stride Community Health Center, that's converting their run on Saturday to a virtual run, and we're seeing more of this. Others, and they also have a golf tournament coming up. They're probably operating like a lot of us, wait and see. I think so much of things depend on what's going to be opening. I feel like, and this is hard to say to people, we're probably not in a position where we can make firm commitments sometimes, and maybe we have to just be comfortable with saying we're going to make a decision on this golf tournament in the next 30 days for October or something like that. So I pitched it to Megan first last time. Gareth, you mind just talking just real briefly about how that mindset works and how maybe you're coaching some of your clients?
Yeah, great question. And certainly, you know, a lot of tournaments, a lot of outdoor activities, bike races, things along those lines are happening right now. And again, I think that there's things you have to weigh as an organization and really take everybody's temperature on, you know, how things they want to develop and what it would be the strategy to moving. I think it's important to have, you know, a game plan to say if you do decide to continue on doing it, that you have the ability to pivot to a digital platform or something that's kind of more virtual and, you know, kind of out of the box. I think the time is right now for a lot of creativity and doing a lot of these things that really we haven't done before. You know, and, you know, not-for-profits, you know, I think sometimes have been resistant to change and resistant to trying something new. They've done a lot of the same things. There's some that are more kind of out of the box, if you will, and I applaud Soko for that as well, of doing things and not traditionally in that ballroom component of things. So I think it's important to continue to try and you know, keep that wow effect of what can we be doing and what is the new ways for us to stay involved as an organization that we can have some social components of things, but yet not be, you know, concerned about the health aspects and risks of going back to a traditional sense.
Megan, what are your thoughts on kind of what Gareth's talking about, the strategy going forward on these events that may or may not go forward come September or so?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a push-pull because every time, you know, every minute you hang on to keeping something in person, you're wasting time not planning an even better virtual event. At the flip side, you know, the more momentum you can have as a luncheon, as an example, going into recruiting those same folks, getting them on board, excited about it. I think people will then also be understanding if you have to make a change. So I do not think that this is a one size fits all. I think you have to look at the type of event you have, the opportunities. Obviously, you know, with our golf tournament and all of our events, we're very much working with those venues to make sure that we have an out and we're utilizing that also as a time frame. So we know we can cancel at no cost by this date. And so we're utilizing that and reworking contracts and things of that nature. So I do not think it's a one size fits all by any means. Again, my hope, and I could be completely wrong, is that a golf tournament, if you could have it later in the fall and adapt to not having the in-person banquet. So it's just golf and then you have an online auction and some sort of online component to it so that it is that hybrid type of model. But, you know, there's definitely no right or clear answer here.
Yeah. As a consummate planner, believe me, nothing irritates me more than having to tell a group or even tell myself, you know, we're just have to go play it by ear. Matt, do you have anything to add to it? I know I'm not purposely mismuting that, but maybe. Let's see. I think, we have, I
John, it's
one. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I think I agree. I mean, you know, this is a great time to pivot and think about, you know, what you're doing and maybe even changing it. And I think that's, you know, how many events you're doing, what they look like. And this is a great time to just step back and examine how you look at events. And there is so much out there. I think as Gareth mentioned that, you know, it's creative, it's new, and it's worth taking that time to really explore. And I do want to, there was a bunch of questions on raffles and drawings and all that. And there are some technologies as well that allow for drawings. We have a partner, TapCat, out of Boulder, Colorado. And it's a drawing, it's not a raffle. And the way they do it, so you don't have to get a license for that. And it's a really strong technology and it allows you to do big of drawings. You know, they're seeing 5, 6 figure drawings from these, from the events they're doing. And again, it's virtual and it can go national.
Yeah. And our insurance policy covers advice that's going to get you guys in trouble, right? We got a blanket policy, right, Matt?
Exactly. Yeah.
Or no, this is advice from AFT and CNA, right?
Yeah.
No, you actually can do a lot of these raffles, and Megan, you know about this. As long as it's voluntary, that's the gist of it. And there's some certain nuances, but there were a lot of great questions. And like Matt said, there's some great vendors. TapCat is one that we know and love. There's a bunch of others. I would just be my only caution about all of these. Do due diligence, because it's not that these companies are not good. It's just, what do you want to get out of it? And so have real good conversations with your leadership. Sometimes it takes an investment, and that's the other thing I'll caution. And Matt, and I think Megan and Gareth would all chime in about nonprofits need to be willing to make that investment, and also what Gareth was saying earlier about pivoting and changing the way you're doing things. And yes, if you're going to move into a virtual event, go in with your eyes open and realize there's going to be some investment of time. You're going to have staff to change the way they've done things, and that's not easy. Again, I can speak from my own experience. I'm not always comfortable embracing a new technological change unless I see it happening, but I don't think we're in that space. I think we're in a space where Megan was saying earlier, we've got to thrive. So with the last minute or two, I always love to leave it to the participants or the panelists here. Megan, Gareth, do you guys have any last words you could share with us?
Take it away, Gareth.
Thanks, Megan. And thanks, John and Matt. Again, thank you very much. Listen, what we're going through right now is not a question of days, weeks, months, or even years. We firmly believe that the transitions of things right now is forever. And there'll be simultaneous categories of live events as well as virtual events. Again, I am the target market on the philanthropy side. There's times that I'd prefer to stay home with my family, and I'm happy to donate to your organization. And if I can watch and participate in the comfort of my own home, I feel much better about that sometimes than going to something. So don't look at this as a negative thing. I think that, again, from a board member perspective, the technology and the ability to really engage people locally, nationally, and around the globe at any given time when you're having an event is unbelievable. I'm excited about that side of things. I'm excited about what the future has for this industry. Sure, it's a lot of work, and I'm not getting anybody to change it. It's constantly changing, but it's a positive thing, and you've got to look at that, and you've got to drive your organizations in that same way and let them know that there's many more options than what you're currently seeing right now, and start exploring them, or reach out for help that if you do need to start exploring them, understand what those options are and how we can improve the industry together. I mean, that's why I'm here, is to help. I think that the not-for-profit is really, really important, and we're going to support that as much as we can.
Yeah, and I would echo that. As fundraisers, it's our job to ask, and I think right now it's definitely a sensitive time to do so, but it's our job, and we would be doing a disservice to our clients or those that we serve if we didn't ask. And everyone said it's okay. Try, and if you fail, you'll try something new. So I would just give everybody flexibility, the knowledge that it's okay to do our best and to ask, and go easy on each other and share ideas. I mean, we're all in this together. And so I love learning from new people. I have no shame sharing a good idea or taking a good idea. So by all means, share away, and we can all learn from each other.
Yeah, the best ideas have rarely come from me, as Matt can testify. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. Before we close up, a little bit of housekeeping. We'll be pushing out the videos by Monday. We'll email them, MPW, but AFT and CNA will be posting them. And then also, I'm sorry, Kate, do you mind going back to the last slide there? Our next webinar will be May 22nd. We'll be talking with Melissa Baldwin, Vice Chancellor of Advancement at CU Denver. And so, but you can go to info@mpwstrategy.com, fundraising coronavirus webinars, and we've got all of them there. This one we won't post till Monday, but you can see our previous ones and register for this future one. And so then let me go to the next slide and allow me to reintroduce Carson, who is with AFP. She is the, with Rocky Mountain Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, but she's chair of the education committee for AFP. And she's going to close us out with talking about AFP events. Thank you for joining us. And Carson, I hope I have you unmuted and ready to go.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you so much to Gareth and Megan for sharing and all of the great ideas. This was a wonderful conversation. Thank you. And AFP next week, we have coming up 2 events that we would love for y'all to join us. On Thursday, May 14th, we are hosting our monthly coffee chat, but it is virtual again this month. It's an open forum, so bring any ideas or questions that you have that you want to discuss to coffee chat, and you can also email them ahead of time to Brenda at rmmfi.org. And then our next education webinar is on Friday, May 15th. And Carla Rains will be talking about how you can win your donor's affection with a strategy that matters. So for both of these events, you can go to afpcc.org for more information and to register. And thank you so much to Matt, John, and Kay from MPW Strategies for hosting this again. And we appreciate everyone who attended. So thank you.
Great. Take care all.
Thank you. Thank you all.